Boy, it's been a long time since we've seen a Final Destination movie, but after all this time, they decided to make a comeback with Final Destination Bloodlines. So, does it breathe new life into the series, no pun intended, or should the series have stayed dead? Let's find out in our spoiler-free review of Final Destination Bloodlines. Alright, before I get into the review, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with the latest videos and reviews just like this one. All support is appreciated. So, right off the bat, I am a huge fan of the Final Destination series. It follows the same sort of premise for every single movie, but every single kill is so unbelievably creative. So basically, if you haven't seen any of the Final Destination movies before this one, and boy, this would be a crazy one to start with, but the idea is that someone has a premonition of a disaster that's about to occur. So for example, the third one, we have a roller coaster accident. The second one, we have a highway accident. And then the first one, we have a plane crashing. So they have a premonition of everyone dying and seeing exactly how the events are about to play out in front of them. But they are able to escape the situation because they see the premonition. So they get off the plane, or they tell their friends not to board the roller coaster or whatnot, for example, and then because they're able to save everyone, death comes after them one by one and starts killing them in freak accidents, basically. An almost Rube Goldberg sort of style of kills, and they get very creative, very gruesome, but what I love about it is that there's no actual slasher. There's not a Freddy, there's not a Jason. It's literally death via accidents, via freak occurrences and stuff like that. So that idea to me has always been super creative. There's so much you can do with it. And then finally, after they took a long break, I didn't think I was ever going to see another Final Destination, but finally we see a new one. So this one is actually a little different. It follows a different sort of formula. It follows a college student having reoccurring violent nightmares of a brutal accident that happened back in the 70s, it looks like. And she returns home to find one person who can break the cycle and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them. So basically, this one's a little different because the premonition she's looking at is actually of someone from her past. So I don't want to get too much into details because that'll start going to spoil territory. But of course, we obviously do have the event, the big disaster, if you will, that pushes the story forward and has death chasing this family, if you will, in this one. So, right off the bat, I want to say, in terms of all the big disasters that occur throughout all the movies, I think this one might be my favorite, to be honest, in terms of theming, in terms of the set pieces, in terms of how everything plays out and the way it's edited. I genuinely think that this is my favorite inciting incident, if you will, or inciting disaster, and just the slow burn of it and how everything makes sense. And then again, I'm not going to spoil it, but if you've seen the movie, just the way the whole entire scene ends, it's just perfectly full circle, almost comical in certain areas. But that's what makes these movies so fun, is that they have a mixture of super gruesome deaths, but also comedy, and death almost has this wicked sense of humor throughout the movie, which I kind of like. So that first inciting incident is excellently done. Great acting, great directing. The graphics, I'll get more into this later, but the graphics are a little, lackluster, but they've always been in a lot of the movies. So that's one kind of mini gripe, but it honestly, for me, it doesn't take away too much. I think there's a lot of great looking scenes in the movie, but for that first scene, it does have a few moments that look a little, fake as well. But honestly, I think it's excellently created, and it's a great start to the story, to the movie, which I love, but I really give them props for just changing up the formula for this newest movie. You would think that after such a long hiatus, they would stick with the same exact plot line, the same sort of premise, but no, they actually twist the story, the idea of it on its head, and have the actual premonition be from the past. And now they're dealing with something as a result of that. So I really do like that, and it totally just catches you off guard, in a way. So let's talk about the kills. There's obviously a lot of them, and I absolutely love the creativity in this one, and a lot of the set pieces and a lot of the kills in a lot of the movies, all the movies basically, especially the later ones and this one, have a great way of actually faking out the audience member. You're thinking that it's going to go one way, and it's showing you certain visuals of things that might be the kill. It shows you maybe a sharp object or a piece of glass or something on the ground. You think, oh, that's how they're gonna die. But no, it's actually something else. So the way it psychs you out and keeps you on your toes the whole time. Some of these kill sequences are very slow in the setup, and I love that because you are at the edge of your seat. You know something's about to happen. You know there's gonna be a death sequence of some kind, but you don't know exactly how, and the movie really just keeps you guessing how exactly the person's gonna die. And I love that the way, you know, it uses the camera angles and the sounds and the set pieces and things maybe in the corners of tables like that are about to fall, or it zooms in on certain things. It's really well done, and that's something that I've always loved about it, and this movie is no different. And basically all the kills in this particular movie I could not have predicted. They totally, completely continue to catch you off guard. And again, as gruesome as you can get it, super bloody, super gory, they show everything. And on top of that, no one is safe. I mean, really no one, especially in that first sequence, you know that no one is safe from death. No child, no adult, no old lady. It doesn't matter if you're sick. It doesn't matter if you're a great person. It doesn't matter if you're a baby. There is no limits to death, as in real life, you know. But in the movie, obviously, there's no limits whatsoever. Another thing I really liked about it is how the movie kind of trolls the audience. There's a lot of moments where the movie almost mocks you for thinking that someone's gonna die in a certain way. There's several moments where you genuinely, the movie almost laughs in your face that, oh, you thought that we're gonna be that cheap about it. You're dead wrong. So I really did like that about it. They're very ironic in certain ways, kind of in a way like how Scream is self-aware. There is a little bit of self-awareness in this particular Final Destination. Now let's talk about the actual casting. So I'm not really familiar with any of these actors except Tony Todd, which makes a return. He's a reoccurring character throughout the series, and he does make a return in this one. He did pass away last year, so this would be his final movie, you know, but he makes a return as a reoccurring character. But everyone else is pretty much new. At least I haven't seen many of these actors in a lot of things. So the main character is played by Caitlin Santa-Wana, and she plays Stephanie, which is the main character. She's the college student that's experiencing all this, and she's definitely the person going, okay, look, you know, we're all gonna die in a certain order, and trying to convince everyone around her that they need to be careful, and she's trying to figure it all out. And she has a little help, you know, with that sense. And there's, again, it's the cast is, and I'm not gonna go through everyone in the movie, but I really did like the vibe and the energy that they had. It definitely felt like a family with the same kind of drama, the same kind of humorous moments as well. But alongside that, you do have this sort of sense of family, like they all do care for each other. And that's what makes it even more brutal and more twisted, actually, is that death is going after a family this time. Not a group of friends, but a literal family, you know, with cousins and uncles and all that stuff. So that's, again, another sort of brutal twist by doing it this way. Now, but yeah, I like the group, and I would give that as a positive. And there's a lot of humorous moments as well. They've sprinkled it a lot, almost comedy you'd see in a comedy movie. Literally, they've sprinkled that in there in the same way like Scream does and some other horror movies. There are little moments of humor as well. Some of the kills even have a humorous element as well. You know, if you're not cringing at the gruesomeness of it, you can get a good laugh out of it as well. What's wrong with you people? But yeah, in terms of the negatives of what I didn't like about the movie, I'd say that the graphics, again, in all of them, they've always been a little cheap looking, you know, a little fake. This one, for the most part, looks pretty good, but there are moments where it does very much look like graphics. So, you know, for that sake, I will be taking off a few points for that. And on top of that, you know, obviously I go into these movies without any kind of suspension of disbelief, fully out the window. I'm not expecting this to be realistic at all, but there are a few moments that did, with that in mind, have me rolling my eyes in a way. There's some things are ridiculous in this movie. Again, which Final Destination we're talking about here, realism out the window, but still with that in mind, I rolled my eyes. There's some ridiculous moments, some stuff that don't make any kind of sense whatsoever. I'm happy to talk about those moments in the comments if you want to, but yeah, just even for this, for the movie's sake, it's too much, some of them. But all in all, I thought that this was really fun. I had a great time, honestly. If you're into really gory, sort of unique horror movies that are gonna have a fun time with a little bit of humor in there, with some creativity, you know, it does keep you guessing. It's hard to predict things, and unpredictability nowadays is great, you know, so I love to see that. Always been a fan of the series, so if you do like the other movies and you want to see something different, this is definitely the movie. I'd watch it in a big screen for sure. It's really fun, you know, get a group of friends and go out and see it personally if you like this kind of stuff. So I really liked it, had a great time. I'd give it a solid 8.3. I think that's a good score for Final Destination Bloodlines. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know below what you thought of the movie. Thank you very much for watching.